Welcome into the season podcast. This is episode 3, week 1 of the NFL season. We had 2 preseason episodes that we posted on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, also on our YouTube page. Here we are for week 1, our first kind of official episode, if you will. Reminder that we will be doing weekly episodes over the course of the season. Those will be released Wednesday, Thursday, depending on what's going on that week, depending on certain storylines, all those things. Nick's travel schedule, he's out there signing autographs in Philly. He's also going to be in Philly this weekend for this opening game where the Eagles welcome the Cowboys. So pay attention to the cadence because we're going to have a show every week. We look forward to having all you guys join us each and every week. Was a fun opening weekend of college football. Hope everybody enjoyed that. We'll get to that in one sec, but I also want to mention too, really important news for the season. We have a bonus episode that will be airing this week. Our first guest. When we opened this show, Nick, we talked about having great guests over the course of the season. Our first guest of the year, Brent Selleck, legendary tight end from the Philadelphia Eagles, won the Super Bowl 52 with Nick, retired after the 2017 season. He's joining us this week. That bonus episode will air tomorrow. So check that out. We're going to have some great discussion with Brent about the state of the Philadelphia Eagles and just some great stories with him and Nick as well as teammates over the years. Again, hope you enjoyed the opening weekend of college football. Bill Belichick, college football is wild, right?
It is.
Guys getting paid and all this.
It's so different. I get asked all the time, like, can they sustain this? I don't see how college football sustains everything going on.
Crazy. It doesn't feel sustainable, right? But Bill Belichick gets embarrassed. They allow 48 points at home to TCU. He has not allowed 48 points in a game his entire head coaching career.
Yeah.
College and pro. Obviously, he only had one college game. They lose 48-14, I believe it was. Arch Manning, look, a lot of people, hey, don't worry, he's going to be fine. Didn't look good against Ohio State. That didn't go as planned. Wild weekend of college football, but hey, it's a 12-team playoff now. You can lose a game early in the season. The cool thing about the 12-team playoff is it promotes good matchups because you're not afraid to lose a game early in the season. It doesn't ruin your season to lose a game. So there's a lot of improvement with all these transfers, these young guys. There's a lot of improvement to be had. I think college football is going to get better. Overall, I thought it was kind of disappointing this weekend, especially some of the headline matchups. But if you're Bill Belichick, though, you made us interested in North Carolina hosting TCU.
Yeah.
You made it so congratulations, because normally I don't think most of us would give a damn. But North Carolina hosts TCU, you made us interested in that. So congratulations.
I know. I mean, it just shows you now everyone's disinterested.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, obviously so much respect for the Hall of Fame head coach, such an amazing NFL career. I'm just really curious to see how this college thing goes. I'm just so shocked he's still in college, like at North Carolina doing this. I don't know how long this project will last. Will he be patient enough to do it? I'm actually curious how he'd be inside. I know they're doing documentaries over the season. Like the fact that he's even doing a documentary surprises me. There's a lot that he's doing right now that surprises me with how he was in the NFL. So we won't go there. You know, that gets personal. But I think everyone knows what everyone's talking about. It's an interesting situation he has. He's got a dynamic. But going back to Arch Manning, I know a lot of people are talking about that. I mean, let's keep it real. This was his first road game to play in. First time to throw a pass that wasn't in Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium.
Outside of Austin.
I'm from Austin, so I know the stadium name. I have not been in the new stadium. I was only in the old one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you couldn't have started in a harder situation. I mean, you're in the shoe, you're at Ohio State, the defending national champs, great defense. That's hard. From a player's perspective, I know everyone says Arch Manning, last name Manning, this. Listen, he's a human being. Like, everyone's going to have those, like, I really think by the end of the season, you're going to see the Arch Manning that everyone thinks they would see week 1. I think that game, Texas losing week 1 against Ohio State, is going to be pivotal to their success making the college football playoff this year, because they're also – Texas is such a big program. There's sometimes some entitlement, and they have documentaries and this. And I know the fan base. My mom went there. I grew up a Longhorn fan. I know how they roll. They have a great program. They have great players. I think this loss will help their trajectory into a solid season.
That's a very reasonable, balanced take, much more so than mine. I understand what you're saying, and I know Matt Patricia is a good defensive coordinator. He basically allowed you to become generationally wealthy.
I mean, all Texas had to do is all they had to do was run the Philly special, and they would have been fine. But they didn't run it.
They didn't run it, right? I'm talking about Nick gashing Matt Patricia's defense in Super Bowl 52. But that being said, look, I understand, like, Arch is inexperienced. He's young. It's a first road game in that environment. But 0 points still, 3.5 minutes left in the game. And I know there was some goal line stands. They could have kicked some field goals, but still, right? And it looked bad.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to expect a lot more than that I know there's a lot of people, like good analysts, saying pump the brakes, like give him a chance. Okay, fair, but we expected more than that.
Yeah.
And come on, you know what it felt like? Did you guys ever see the Netflix documentary Fire Festival? Fire Fest.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a lot of Fire Fest vibes this weekend, both watching North Carolina, because to be fair, North Carolina was not ranked preseason. But I kind of had this feel of like, okay, you're telling me, like, I know Belichick's a good coach, historically great, one of the greatest coaches of all time, not in college, but with Tom Brady and all that. And then also with Arch Manning, I'm being told, hey, forget all that. This guy is the Heisman favorite right now.
Yeah.
He's never even played outside of his home stadium. And we ran Quinn Ewers out of town for this guy. There were some Fire Fest vibes for me. Right when I'm sitting there like, did I get duped here? I mean, can this dude even complete a pass? Now, I'm not trying to be overly hard on him, but it is fair. I don't think you can go all the way the other way either and say, hey, this is fine. It was a tough place to play. Give him time. It was bad, right? Overall, it was bad. And there's some great breakdowns that, like, Dan Orlovsky did a great job breaking down on ESPN what Matt Patricia was doing defensively. And it was real. Like, there were some great looks he was throwing at him. He was confusing him. By and large, he was just trying to keep him in the pocket and prove he can win with his arm and not let him run around. And he's like, I'll bet you at this age against these looks, he can't win with his arm. And boy, was he right.
Yeah.
He didn't throw one ball in rhythm till like late in the fourth quarter, that ball down the left sideline. Not one ball, back foot, rhythm, throw it. Not one. And so great job, Matt Patricia, taking advantage of the young guy. I probably discounted what Matt was thinking going into that game. I expected Arch to do more. I kind of bought into it. I got Fire Festivaled. And here we are, like everybody else, getting hammered on trying to take the Longhorns to win at the shoe. Didn't work.
Well, I think they'll win next week.
Well, who do they play?
They play UTEP.
Yeah.
At home.
Cool, dude.
I think they'll get back on
Cool.
track next
Hey,
week.
more power to you.
They better blow them out, though.
Yeah,
They got to blow them out.
Arch is not getting his NIL millions or whatever the number is to go beat UTEP.
I think it's $9 million.
He's getting it to go impress people in the shoe, and he did not do that.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of work to do, right?
Yeah.
And at first glance, there's a long way to go for that kid. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Upside is there, but
I think he'll get there.
By the way, weird release too.
Yeah, I mean,
strange release.
My guess is, just assessing it from my perspective, just playing the game and playing quarterback, I think whenever you're dropping your arm like he was, I know a lot of people listen. It sometimes is an uneasy, sort of rattled feeling. I mean, it's probably a lot of emotions. I mean, when you don't score in a couple quarters, your brain, it's hard. You're continuing to fight, and everything's not synced up right. Footwork isn't right. You're late. You're hesitant. You're playing against Ohio State. Yes, it isn't what people expected, but at the same time, he hasn't played a lot of football at the college level. And I think during this season, he's going to I think he'll prove a lot of people. Now everyone's sort of doubting him.
Yeah.
I think he'll prove people wrong.
You're the quarterback here. I think you'd agree with this. But for me, like, true talent at the quarterback position and success is contingent upon a quarterback's ability to throw with touch and accuracy and anticipation.
Yeah.
And I think he really struggles right now to throw a touch. That's something that jumped out at me big time. Like, most throws are not drilling a ball down the field like 15, 20 yards on a line, on a rope as hard as you can. That's not most throws.
Yeah.
Most throws are touch throws, right? You know this.
Look
right?
at Drew Brees.
Touch throws are what make you your money.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are anticipation based. He really, really struggled with having touch on his throws. He's throwing balls 100 miles an hour at receivers' knees as they cross the field. That's probably a nerve thing, right?
Yeah.
Settle down, right? You're fine, right? Like, you've got talent, like, throw the football. He's got to learn to throw a touch. And some of that will come with just settling down a little bit.
And I think on the other end of the spectrum, another player that we were watching together was Carson Beck at Miami. I hadn't watched him a lot at Georgia and all that. And I was watching his release and his throw and how he looked in the pocket. I was actually really impressed with his touch on the deep ball, able to put a little mustard on the ball when he needed to. But then also there was like a slant route he threw that he didn't gun it in there. He just placed it where the receiver could catch it. That's what people don't realize. And you've run slant routes in your career as a not bringing up old time, sorry. Sensitive subject. Yeah. But like, you don't want to gun a slant route because you're going right at the ball. Like the velocity it doubles.
Running it,
Yeah. So like you there's times you're gonna have to put something on it, but like if your guy has someone beat, like just put it on there so he can catch it and run with it. And you always want to front pat it so he can run after it. So on the other end of the spectrum, I thought Carson Beck for Miami had a great showing from being a transfer from Georgia. Miami's gonna be a tough team this year.
Last note on college football that I think something to just keep an eye on or keep in mind as you watch it. We all know these kids, and this is not the first year, but these kids are making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And playing the game on scholarship is one thing. Playing the game for millions of dollars and the pressure that comes with that, the eyes that are on you that are paying you those millions, whether they're boosters or, endorsement deals, and now soon to be schools with revenue sharing. those eyes that are on you, a lot of 18 to 22-year-olds are not prepared for that level of pressure. It's a whole new level of pressure. It's one thing to play on TV in front of, like Fox's big noon game, whether it's, let's call it 8, 9, 10 million people watching. That's pressure. But playing for 7 figures, these guys are not used to being pros, and being a pro that soon in their life and not having that normal ramp up to the NFL, that is a whole new level of pressure.
Yeah.
You're playing the game for millions of bucks, as you know, right? And so that's just something to keep in mind. And there is a lot of pressure on Arch. And I don't know behind the scenes how he's processing all this, but it's there, like it or not. And it's not his fault. He didn't create the pressure for himself. Manning, the last name on the jersey, creates a little of that. But he's got to be better.
Yeah.
There's no question.
And
with that team, you've got to be. I mean, a serviceable quarterback in that game wins that game. And I hate to say it, Quinn Ewers wins that game.
Yeah.
I am 100% confident in that. Quinn Ewers wins that football game for them. And
No,
that's a hard thing to stomach if you're Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the upside is there, and it'll be there. And I agree with you, though. I think the college football, with all the money the guys are making, it's great, and it's going to change a lot of families' life, which is amazing. That's a great aspect of it all. Like, a lot of these guys are going to make more money in college than they would in the NFL. A lot of them probably won't even ever sniff an NFL jersey, and they're able to, like, really start ahead in life with the amount of money. But at the same time, there is pressure in the sense of, if they don't perform, like we know in the NFL, when you don't perform when you're getting paid a lot of money, people start looking at you a different way. They start thinking, oh, are you distracted by this money? Are you distracted by this marketing deal? Are you not a part of the team? Is that that part of it has not been in college football. When we played, there was not that.
Hungry dogs run faster, right?
Yeah, that's the big thing. So there's going to be that judgment that comes in, and it's tough to deal with when you're 18, 19, 20. Because I know once you enter the NFL at 21, 22, and you get that maybe a signing bonus or whatever, which our signing bonus, like being a third-round pick, these guys are making so much more than that, right? But there's going to be a judgment.
And they just got to college.
And they just got to college. And as a rookie, you're going through classes. The NFL is bringing in people to tell you about how to do financial stuff and everything, because you really don't know.
Right.
And now you're doing it in college.
This kid's less than 2 years removed from playing like Division III football in high school.
Yeah.
Right. Not even like high one. Not that every player in high school in the NFL played high level high school football.
Yeah.
But he's not that far removed from it.
Yeah.
This was his first game away from that stadium where he actually played. It's like tough, but I still expected more.
Yeah. All eyes will be on him.
Still expected more. Okay. As we head into week 1 of the NFL season, so the preseason, there's this gap, right? And I think a lot of fans can sometimes, like, other than the matchups and looking at the schedule and seeing like, oh, I like this game, I like this game, I like this game, the storylines can sort of start to fade. Micah Parsons has been front and center. We're going to rehash that in a second. But the storylines can sort of start to fade a little bit. And so we want to just do a quick rapid-fire session of like key storylines of the NFL going into week 1. As you watch games this weekend, just some things to keep in mind. Remember, game 1, the Cowboys go to the Eagles on Thursday night. And then Friday, that game in Brazil with the Chargers and Chiefs. We're going to talk about that as well. And then a loaded slate over the course of the weekend for week 1. I'm going to rapid fire some storylines here. Chime in as you wish. Try to be quick on this, but just some things to keep in mind as a viewer of games this weekend. So first is quarterbacks in new places, right? Aaron Rodgers, Justin Fields with the Jets, Sam Darnold with the Seahawks, Russell Wilson with the Giants. They're all starting new places. How do they fare this year? Quarterbacks in their second year. This is wild to me, right? This is a long list here I'm about to read of starting quarterbacks in their second year that are either going to take a jump, they might be flat, which isn't good. All of them want to progress, or they might fall off, right? And those guys are Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, who didn't play in his first year, but he's in his second year in the league. Drake May, high expectations for Drake. Caleb Williams, very high expectations, and Spencer Rattler. These guys are all starting.
It's crazy.
Second-year quarterbacks.
I mean, it's a good-looking group, too. I think when you say those names, I mean, that's a really solid QB class that they have there. And I think you and I both have talked about this a lot. I mean, the quarterback that obviously Jaden Daniels, everyone loves him, and number 21 on the top 100 after his rookie year. I think you and I both are excited about Bo Nix in Denver, what they can do. I mean, even coming out of training camp, when I go back to when they practiced against the Cardinals, Calais Campbell, like talking about how he's the real deal. I mean, that's a guy – CC's played a long time. He's seen a lot of quarterbacks. For him to say that he's taken that sophomore step, I mean, he had a great rookie year. So I think Bo Nix has a big year this year.
With Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, who had obviously the best year of those guys as the offensive rookie of the year, I think it's safe to say Broncos and Commanders are expected to compete for a division title. So of all those quarterbacks I just named, at least 2 of them, you might feel like there's another one, at least 2 of them are expected to compete for a division title. So their progression or regression, whatever happens, is going to be very instrumental to how those divisions play out, which will be a lot of fun to watch.
Yep.
Next one, Vrabel with the Pats.
Yeah.
Big storyline, right? Former coach of the Tennessee Titans. He comes in. He's got a very promising young quarterback in Drake May. They're going to be better defensively. I guarantee you that, just by the way Mike Vrabel is. It'll be a disciplined football team. It'll be a physical football team. Their over-under win total started at 7.5 a few months ago. It's up to 8.5. So people are drinking the Kool-Aid. People are buying in. This team wins 9 or 10 games. That's a huge turnaround, right? With a lot of promise. That's why they hired him. Right?
Yeah.
Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I like it. I like him. I like what he did in Tennessee. I think what he brings in is an experience as a player and his toughness. His teams are always 100%. So tough. They're really smart, too. He's a really smart head coach. Mm-hmm. So every time I've ever played against him, they're not going to have many mental errors. They're going to play the game the right way. They're going to play aggressively. And he, from the sidelines, is going to have everything dialed in situationally. They're going to be a surprise team this year. I mean, like you said, everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid. I love the hire.
Yeah, and the NFC East, I mean, there's going to be some opportunity. Obviously, the Bills are the favorite, right? AFC East.
Yeah.
Bills are the favorite, but there's going to be an opportunity for them to make a move. We got the Dolphins there and Dolphins, Patriots, Jets. Chance for them to make a move.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a few times. Ben Johnson to the Bears.
Yeah.
We will hit the Bears repeatedly over the course of the year. A legitimate play caller with the number 1 overall pick in Caleb Williams. A lot of weapons on the outside. That's going to be a lot of fun to follow. They're probably my favorite team that is the longest odds in the division, meaning of all the 8 divisions in the NFL, if you take the team from a gambling standpoint that is picked last from the odds, the Bears are probably my favorite as far as a bottom team goes. They're the longest odds in the NFC North, but they're my favorite of all the longest odd teams in the NFL. I think they're going to make significant improvement. The whole interior of the offensive line is new. That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think, playing for Chicago for 2 years and seeing the changes they're making and getting Caleb protection and weapons and, the play. The thing is, Ben Johnson has called the plays, right? Yep. He's called the plays for many years in Detroit, and he didn't leave at the first opportunity to become a head coach. He stayed in Detroit, and they had elite success. So he's led that room, whereas before when they brought in, Matt Nagy, who's an offensive play caller, he called some games and he called plays, but it was with Andy Reid as his backboard. Yep. Like he always had Andy right there, where Ben Johnson did not have that. Ben was the one leading. He was the one calling. It was on him. So I think they have an opportunity, like you said, to have success this season with all the changes. I still, it's hard to believe after being there for 2 years and sort of every single time they hire a new coach, he inherits a quarterback. They hire a new coach, he inherits a first-round quarterback. I know the Bears fans are really wanting this to be a successful year. They have given them the greatest chance of opportunity to do that. Let's just see if it happens.
When he was at the Lions, and the biggest reason for his success was roster composition. They were dominant up front. They had 2 good running backs, and they had good receivers and a good tight end, Sam Laporta. This feels similar to me in Chicago. He's drafted Colston Loveland in the first round, really good player. They've got Cole Kmet, who's a former second-round pick from Notre Dame.
Cole's awesome. They've
got a bunch of good receivers, Roma Dunte, DJ Moore, to name a couple. I don't know that they have an Amon-Ra St. Brown to really – like Amon-Ra is a total stud, right? And I don't know that they have that type of player on their roster, but there are other holes that they do fill. And most importantly, the offensive line. I think this offensive line allowed like 68 sacks last year, most in the league.
That's the key.
And it's not all their fault, right? Yeah. Caleb sometimes held on to it too much. He's young. He didn't see it. But they've gotten better up front in the middle. Like Drew Dahlman, they signed at center. They've made other moves. The whole interior of the offensive line is new and going to be much better. So I think composition-wise, this roster offensively is starting to look like it did for him in Detroit. And the assumption is like he'll be able to take advantage of that. So we'll see how that goes. Lions, speaking of Ben Johnson, the team he left, they have 2 new coordinators. A team that has a ton of talent, needs to get better defensively. They really struggled late in the year, mainly due to injuries. Like Aiden Hutchinson's going to be back. Yeah, I think Aiden, this might be getting ahead of myself. Maybe a chance to be a future Hall of Famer. How do they fare? Brutal schedule. Top 3 difficult schedules, right? And we had them as a team that really could regress this year because of 2 new coordinators and a really tough schedule. And if they don't stay healthy, it could be tough. Even though this team, I love Dan Campbell. I really do. But this could be – the Lions to me are this year sort of feels like they're teetering a little bit. We'll see how it goes.
I agree with you. I agree with that assessment. I think anytime you have 2 new coordinators, it changes the dynamic a lot more than people think. It's a different person leading the room. And, I always think through the first 4 or 6 games of a season, you sort of see what the team's going to be. So if they start out like they did last year, they'll probably be all right. But, if there's some inconsistencies, I really worry about them for the long haul of the 17-week season.
A couple more sort of procedural things that I think are worth noting and interesting. Okay, so this year, the touchback is going to move, for those of you that care about field position, is going to move from the 30 to the 35-yard line. You kick a ball out of the end zone this year, the ball's going to the 35.
Wow.
Remember, for years, a legal procedure brought you to the 40, and it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so penal. Like, we don't want to do that. You were basically 2 completions away from being in field goal range. A touchback now takes you to the 35.
That's insane.
Now, keep in mind, this is year 2 of the revamped kind of kickoff rule where, like, you know, they start 5 yards apart. It's kind of goofy looking, but it's the new thing.
Yeah.
So with the touchback moving out to the 35, their objective is to incentivize more returns and play the field position game in a different way than they've been doing to date. So keep an eye on that. I think special teams are going to change. You're going to see more returns. Guys making plays on returns is going to be a bigger deal rather than like starting back at the 25 or the 20-yard line. That's a thing in the past. Like, you start on the 20 or 25, like in old days, it was like normal. That's a loss now. You're thinking like field position wise, we got to start at least the 30. A touchback's the 35, right?
Defenses have to be like just scratching their heads, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an offensive league. I mean, offense is what makes the money. Offense is what people want to watch. I mean, when teams have great games, it's because their offense played well.
Yeah.
You know, it sucks for the defensive players because, I mean, the ball is going to be – I mean, they're going to have to – it's going to be hard to stop them now that they're at the 35. So, but
two completions, you're in field goal range.
Yeah, I mean, is that something where it's like starting on the 20, 25, that's a whole another first down or two. And so I think that, I mean, they want more points, they want more fireworks, and they know that that'll up viewership when the game has more points and more points scored in higher scoring games. I mean, people want to see that.
Yeah. And last one, procedural. This one's really interesting to me, the electronic first down situation. So this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, the NFL, and it still for years has been funny to see these guys run out with a chain, and like set it down, pull the chain back, and we're all watching like in total anticipation. Like, did he get it? And you even got that one year where he put the index card in there. And so those days are over. The ball will still be manually spotted by a referee, but what I compare it to is tennis. You know, you watch a tennis match and like you're wondering, was that in? It gets challenged, and all of a sudden they throw up like some 3D rendering of the ball being in, and it says in, and you're kind of sitting there like, is that accurate? Like, that's it?
Must be.
And so apparently it's very accurate. The NFL is going to be working with similar type technology. They call it the Hawkeye system, and the ball will be spotted. And then instead of measuring with chains now, they're going to use a 3D rendering of where the ball is relative to where the first down, where the line to gain is.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see on TV how these networks do it, where they actually show that graphic of like the ball being like this close and first down. But you're not going to see them marching out anymore and like setting it and then pulling the chain back, and everyone's sitting there like, oh my God, did he get it? Did he not?
Well, it's
all going to be done by technology now.
It takes so much time and for the chains, and there's always players in the way of the chains, and then you got a guy tripping over the chain, so it'll speed up the game a little bit. But I do think it's a nice addition to the NFL.
I think it's less about speeding up the game and more about like, okay, it's 2025.
Let's do something more modern.
Billions and billions and billions of dollars. Are we really still using this chain? These guys like, waddling out there to try to set that thing up and get it right. Those days are over.
Yeah.
Now we're using technology. So we'll see how it goes. Like this time next year, we'll know, hey, did it work? Did it not? Like, we'll see. And that's really it. So as you go into week 1, like those are some things to keep an eye on. Some things you might have forgotten about after the preseason, some storylines, general things to like think about with the NFL this year. So it's going to be an exciting year. Nick, I want to come full circle to Micah Parsons. So last week on our show, it was before he had been traded. I thought that Jerry would not budge. I didn't think Jerry was going to give him over 40 a year like you wanted, but I didn't know how that would manifest. I didn't know, like, does that mean that like Micah just I thought he might miss a couple games. Does that mean Micah holds out for half the season? Does that mean Jerry finally folds? I compared it to Emmitt Smith way back in the day where Emmitt didn't play the first 2 games of the 93 season or something. And then Jerry kind of met him in the middle, and he started playing because they needed Emmitt. And you thought, hey, you know what? Micah's a future Hall of Famer. If you're Dallas, you need Micah to be a Hall of Famer in Dallas and nowhere else. You need to get this done. He's a game-changing player. Get it done. They end up trading him.
Yeah.
They trade him to the Green Bay Packers for a 2026 and 2027 first-round pick. By the way, those are going to be late picks in the first round because Green Bay is going to be good. So they're going to get Green Bay's picks each of the next 2 years late in the first round. Barring something crazy with Jordan Love or something, this is going to be a playoff team. So they're not going to be picking anytime early. And they also got Kenny, why am I blanking on Kenny's name? from
Clark.
Yeah, Kenny Clark, the former first round pick.
Yeah,
I think
good
going
player.
for like his 10th year from UCLA. Really good player.
Captain in Green Bay.
3-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Right now he's late in his career, so I think that's why people are like, you should have gotten more. 2 first round picks than Kenny Clark. Kenny's a multiple time Pro Bowler. He is a run stopper, like Jerry says he's trying to do in stopping the run. But this one caught a lot of people off guard, and no one. I don't think a lot of people saw this coming. But then again, you look at the delay and how this all played out, and you're like, my goodness, like Jerry finally made the move and he shipped him out of town in an effort to build his team elsewhere. And you could make an argument that, hey, this Dallas team is picked 3rd in the division this year. They're probably not going to make a lot of noise. Maybe Jerry felt like now's the time to start stockpiling draft picks to get other guys and using draft capital to maybe trade for someone else down the road. Pretty wild news that came out last week about Micah.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at his contract, though, I mean, you sort of see that Jerry couldn't bring that kind of contract to the table. I mean, Max is out at $47 million per year in new money with incentives on average. I mean, average annual value is $42 million, 210 over 5. You really look at the guarantee, $120 million. It's a pretty massive contract. I mean, I was saying they just had to get a little over 40. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And I mean, we've talked about Dallas' situation, their cap situation with paying Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb. He just knew that it could be detrimental. Do I think they should have found a way? Yeah, but obviously the relationship was too far gone, and they allowed him to seek a trade, and this is what happened. Green Bay's going all in on him.
I think the knee-jerk reaction with Micah, and it's really easy to go this route, is that, like, Jerry, you did it again. Gosh dang it. Like, this guy's an incredible player. He's a game-changing player. In his first 4 years, as far as number of sacks go per season, the only guy that's in his company is Reggie White, which is just insane. So it's really easy to look at this and say, Jerry, you blew it. If you're going to trade him, you should have gotten 4 first-round picks. You only got 2, and you got Kenny Clark. You blew it. Once again, the team falls short because you're not a very good GM. That's sort of the knee-jerk, easy reaction that I've seen time and time again. Let's put pause on that for 1 second, okay? So what I want people to realize is, and we've talked about this a lot as far as building in a salary cap era, building a team that can win games consistently. Last year, there's a team in the league last year that had the leading passer from a yard standpoint, the leading passer in the league. That team also had the leading receiver in the league at just over 1,700 yards on the season, which is incredible. And that team also had the leading sack getter on the season. So the passer was Joe Burrow. The receiver was Jamar Chase. And the sack getter was Trey Hendrickson, who also had a contract dispute this season, is going to be this upcoming season, finally got it done, is going to be making $30 million on a 1-year deal. Way less than Micah, but he's not as special as Micah is. I'm not trying to act like he is, but he had 17.5 sacks last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So that team, and we've talked about how you got Dak that's averaging about 60 a year, highest in the league. You've got CeeDee Lamb, who's in like the 35 a year range. And then you've got Micah, who if you had paid him would have been over 40 a year if you gave him what he wanted. That's a significant chunk of your salary cap.
Yeah.
Cincinnati had the leading for those 3 categories, like quite often other than your left tackle or maybe a corner, your highest paid players on your team, quarterback, maybe a receiver, and a pass rusher. All 3 of those guys led the league in what they're supposed to do since he did not make the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we at least need to acknowledge that as you're trying to build a complete football team, it is really, now Green Bay is going to find a way to do it, right? Because Green Bay hits on draft picks and it's a very well-run organization. I get it. You might say, well, but time will tell how it goes with Micah Parsons. Maybe it becomes a problem in 2 years. I don't know. But for a team, we have evidence out there right now of a team that has the leading passer, leading receiver, and the leading sack getter in the entire league last year, and the Bengals didn't even make the dang playoffs, right? So just because you have all 3 of those guys does not mean you're set. And I want to give Jerry a little bit of credit here. I don't think mechanically he would have batted the right way because he probably should have started this process around the draft. Maybe he could have gotten more. The timing of trading a guy like Micah for this level of compensation was very odd. It felt like it was just flying by the seat of your pants with no plan. But I find it interesting that we have a team out there that has 3 guys that are the best at those positions last year, and they didn't even make the dang playoffs.
No, I get it. And I think it's tough. I mean, you're paying Dak so much money. I mean, he's already made in his career $250 million. Quarter. And I look back to, like, I get it. These players want to get paid. I was a player, so you're going through the contract. But at what point in your career, like, do you do a Pat Mahomes thing? Like, like, you're the quarterback of the future. Like, Jerry wants you there, like, where he does the 10-year, $45 million. I mean, they're obviously both making really good money off the field with marketing. it makes it really difficult to be successful at that. And I get it. Trust me, players are getting paid. This is what they want. I'm not saying they didn't. I played in the NFL. I get it. But I mean, $250 million already you're earning, and then there's got to be a way to. I don't know. It's a touchy subject because I mean, you start talking about that, and players get sensitive and everything. But I mean, that's a lot of money, and then now you're like the highest paid quarterback.
Yeah,
and you were 2-5 in the playoffs. And
7-10 last year, although Dak was hurt last year.
He was hurt like 8 games, but I mean, you're just not in a great position to be successful. That's tough.
Jerry mentioned how they want to stop the run. It felt disingenuous. Kind of. I mean, I do agree with him. That's important.
It's very important.
If this is really if you feel like you have to do this to stop the
run,
in
the NFC East as well, very important.
Right. You got Saquon Barkley. You got the Commanders. But by the way, you got to stop Jaden Daniels throwing the ball. But it's a different passing attack. Jaden's not. You're not just going to pin your ears back and tee off on Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
You got to be very smart about how you approach him. Right. It felt disingenuous when he did that, even though there is merit to making that point. There's no question about that. Like Jerry, it's a good point, Jerry. And if this is what you feel like you have to do to stop the run, get Kenny Clark and get more draft picks, fine. But it felt like he was backpedaling a little bit, trying to save face. But that's the story he's telling. And by the way, time will tell here.
Yeah.
It's really easy for us to say who won this trade. Like as of now, it feels like, I guess if you really tip the scales, it feels like the Packers did. But time will tell.
Yeah.
Right. And here's why. This is where I want your opinion too. Micah Parsons, if I just compare him to other like all-time great pass rushers, right? And really what the Packers are concerned about is the next 4 years because that's what they signed him for, right? Micah Parsons is listed at like 6'2", 6'3", 245 pounds. Okay? Myles Garrett is listed at like 6'4", 275 pounds, and I think he's all of that. You go back in the day, Reggie White, who we've compared Micah Parsons to strictly from a statistical standpoint, Reggie White's like over 290. Monster. And I remember talking to my good friend Joe Thomas one time, a Hall of Fame left tackle out of Cleveland. I said, hey, what do you fear the most about pass rushers? And he's like, oh, that's easy. He goes, I fear guys that are balanced, meaning they have a speed move. And then if I try to play basketball and stay in front of them on their speed move and I get I sit back too far, they'll run me over. So he feared, this is Joe, who allowed very few sacks, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He truly feared guys, like he mentioned Dwight Freeney and even DeMarcus Ware was another guy. He feared guys that had that balance between speed and power, where like they could beat me with speed, but if I sat back and tried to play basketball and stay in front of them, they'd run me over. He really feared that. I'm not trying to say Micah doesn't have power. Yeah. He does. There's no question about it. Watch him in his individual drills in Green Bay. Like these cuts are just like the guy's power and get off is insane. But I do think Micah's a speed athlete.
Yeah.
I really do. Right? At 6'3", 245, he's like a 4'4", 40-yard dash guy. He's a lighter defensive end and a speed athlete.
Yep.
And I think it begs the question about A, stopping the run, and B, longevity, right? Guys like that get hurt more. They're like Lamborghinis, right? They're not like Hummers. They're Lamborghinis. And you wonder over the course of even the next 4 years, like Micah, I don't want to overstate his back injury right now, but he's dealing with like an L4-5 like joint sprain, according to Adam Schefter. He might have to get an epidural before the game, according to reports. I don't think that's why Dallas traded him. I'm not going to overstate that. Look, he's in the 5th year of his NFL career. There's going to be things that come up. But I do wonder at 6'3", 245, when your game is mainly based off speed, and there's some power there, but he is a speed athlete, if we're going to be talking about this guy still leading the league in sacks in 3 years.
Yeah.
Is that a fair question?
No, I think it's fair. I think for the next 4 years, he'll be elite. I think he'll be up there. I mean, you might even see a defensive player of the year just because he's still so young. I mean, he's the same size as TJ Watt. TJ Watt,
right? He's 26.
I don't know his exact age. He's young 26. Though, but like TJ Watt's 6'4", 252. So he's not.
I think they're different players.
They're definitely different players. But I will say this from a quarterback's perspective: like a guy like that that's so fast, so good at change of direction, does have power. They get to you quick. And in those tackles, I mean, you know what it's like playing basketball. Like when you have a bigger guy on you, I always like that. But when it's a smaller guy that's like shifty, that has power, those are hard to stop. So I still think he's going to be a monster for his next 4 years. He's really going to help Green Bay. But I do think because of the contract and all the expectations, a defensive player of the year needs to be like on the horizon for him. Like he needs to take over the league at that position. And he's done a great job of that through his first 4 years. But you're right. I mean, everyone's going to say what they want to about this, and no one knows. Time will tell. And obviously he's got to get through this little back injury and get out there. And I honestly think that if he has to take an epidural week 1, they should not play him.
It's a problem.
I don't think you invest in this guy, trade this guy. It's the ramp-up period. and all of a sudden you have to inject an epidural into them. That doesn't sound smart to me. I mean, even if it's week 4, make sure the guy's 100% healthy and ramped up before you go. It's a long season, and you'll be able to get through those first couple games without him. And then once he's healthy, let him roll.
There's going to be a lot of people keeping receipts on this trade, on
Yes.
takes, and also on just the transactional receipts about how this all played out. We're going to look back at this in 2 to 3 years and think, oh, wow, the Cowboys really blew it, or, oh, my goodness, they were geniuses. Hard to say, right? But the key thing for Mike is he's got to stay healthy, right? And we'll, it's going to be – he's already got something going on this season with the back, obviously, but we'll see how it plays out. But the Micah Parsons thing, no question, one of the most interesting storylines we've seen at the end of training camp in a really long time, to see a generational talent like that get traded. But it's made for some great discussion. Okay, Nick, one topic we also thought would be interesting today is, as you look at the league, around the league, I'm not even going to limit it to a specific division, generally speaking. And for whatever reason, like your reasoning could be whatever you want on this. Which QB around the league, especially as we enter week 1, which QB do you think it feels like has the most riding on this season, and why?
I mean, I go with everything going on in the media, and we were just talking for 10 minutes about Micah Parsons. I have to go with Dak Prescott. I mean, a big reason they're in this situation is his contract. Is he a great player? Is he a top quarterback in the league? Is he worth like being the franchise? Yeah, he's the franchise guy in Dallas. People go to the games to watch him play. He is extremely talented, all those things. But a big reason that it's tough to sign these guys is they're paying him so much. And, 2-5 in the playoffs, obviously was injured 8 games last year, new head coach this year. I think Dak has a lot riding on him with everything going on. I think the Cowboys have a lot riding on them with how much that they're in the media for all these different things with contracts, disputes, Jerry having these behind closed doors interviews with or talks with players about contracts. I just think Dak needs to come out and have a good year, and I think it's going to be very difficult to do that in Philly to start the season.
Do you like the pairing of CeeDee Lamb with George Pickens? They brought George Pickens over from Pittsburgh. Do you like that dynamic at receiver? Because I see him as 2 number ones. George had some attitude issues in Pittsburgh, body language. There's really, usually in a receiver room, there's only room for one number one as far as personality and flair and ego go. When you have 2 of them, sometimes you worry about those guys, which one's going to do the dirty work and which one's really going to like try to own the middle of the field, and versus, hey, you know what? There's only so many 50-50 balls I'm going to throw.
Yeah.
So when you have 2 number ones, how do you feel about that?
It's tricky, and I have had 2 number ones in my career. Early in my career, I had Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin, who, Jeremy went on to be a number 1 in Kansas City. And I will say this, 2 outstanding players, love being their teammates, but it is a conscious effort to start a game like you're trying to get them both balls because of it, they want the ball, they're getting paid to get the ball, and they're some of the best in the league. So when it's lopsided, it does get tricky because one's going to get emotional. Fortunately, both those guys were great, love them, but like it was a conscious effort from a quarterback perspective to try to get them both balls early in the game so that they locked in and they knew that they were part of the offense. There'd even be sections on the play sheet like these plays for this player, Jeremy, these plays for Deshaun, and that's what good coaches do. They have hey, these are the get back in rhythm plays for these players because, those are the star players. You got to get them involved, but it is difficult to have 2 number 1 receivers. You definitely want different personalities in the room. When I was in 17 and 18, our number 1 would be Alshon Jeffrey, but Alshon's got such a laid-back, easygoing attitude. No matter who's out there, Torrey Smith, Nelson Aguilar, whoever it may be, that was sort of a group that did it together, not just one receiver because of the personalities. I do see that being an issue this season.
That's a really good point. I mentioned body language and guys doing the dirty work, but you looked at it from a different standpoint of how quarterbacks process that. You get through like the second quarter and maybe it's a tie game. You guys aren't like dominating, or maybe you're down. And maybe CeeDee Lamb has had a couple of balls his way and he seems to be happy. Let's just be real. That's the way these guys are, right?
Yeah.
And then you look down the bench the other way and you see George Pickens and he's just kind of sitting there like, and it weighs on you. It weighs on the offensive coordinator, right? So usually you only have really one of those guys.
Yeah.
And you need, I guess what I'm getting at is you need like these system receivers that are going to make plays when the ball comes to them, and when the ball doesn't come to them, they're team guys. They're like, hey, that's just the way it is, man. I'm ready when my number's called. And these guys are like immensely talented too. You need guys like this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I see a Amon-Ra St. Brown like that.
Yeah.
It's a great example.
Yeah.
Right? Even though he's really their number 1, he doesn't strike me as a normal number 1. Yeah. And he's going to grind and make dirt and do a lot of the dirty work over the middle of the field. And every team needs guys like that.
No, for sure. And my examples right now were never number 1 receivers, and they're still playing. But like Mac Hollins and Nelson Aguilar, talented, can make plays, playing in the league a long time, but they would do the dirty work.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a huge part of keeping the wide receiver room together, because you also want guys like that in there when maybe personalities are flaring. You want guys for not only the quarterback needs to go. Sometimes it's hard because you're the QB. You want other guys in that room with that leadership to be like, hey, guys, knock it off. Like, we're in a game. Like, just do your job. Like, you're going to get the ball when you get the ball. It needs to come from guys in that room. So having guys like, Mac Hollins, Nelson Aguilar, or Jason Avant when I was in Philly, that could be those guys that were respected, that could go to, when it was Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, right, amazing receivers. But, like, if Jason went and talked, like, they would listen because of the respect they had for him, because Jason would do the dirty work. He'd be in the middle of the field finding the openings. He'd be blocking. He'd be giving everything he had in practice. You got to have that. If you're going to have those two number ones, there needs to be a veteran leader in that receiver room that can go up to those guys when their personalities start flaring or they get sensitive and be like, hey, guys, you're playing for this team. You're not playing for your own self. Like, it's about the team. And it's tough because it's a tough game. Everyone wants to do theirs, but the best teams play together, and it's not about individual performances.
Jeez, I feel like he's kind of yelling at me right now.
No, I get emotional about that because
that's not the point. You're super intense about this.
Well, and I think too, like the teams.
Are you mad at me? Or?
No, I'm not. I just think the teams that are toxic, like those personalities aren't good. But like I think back to my team,
it's not a winning.
It's not a winning culture. But I am so grateful for the year I was with the Chiefs in 2016, the times with the Philadelphia Eagles. I saw what worked. I had those guys, but then Jason Avant comes in and he can bring it together. Mac Hollins, Nelson Aguilar, that was just a special room of committee, a receiver by committee. And I see what works. And it's always giving yourself for your team and your teammates giving themselves for each other. It doesn't change on any level. It gets harder in the NFL. It's getting harder in college because so much money is involved. But the teams that actually can buy into that the most at that level are the ones that are successful. And the team that just cares about what they're doing on TV and what they're marketing and like what they get and stuff. All that stuff can be done in the offseason.
Which tends to be the Cowboys a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, listen, get your money, get your contracts, get all that situated. That's a part of the game. That's what provides for your family. That's what does this. That is a part of football. Knock it all out. Once it's locked in, once your contract, just forget about that's awesome. I love that we were both beneficiaries of like playing in the NFL. It's a blessing. But once all that's done, just be a teammate. You're just one of the numbers that's playing the game, and do your part and be there for your teammate.
And again, we're talking about the dynamic, with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and having like two number one type personalities. I mean, conversely, you can be the Kansas City Chiefs and really, other than an aging tight end and Travis Kelce, who I think is still going to be really good this year, not really even have a true number one on the outside. Rashee Rice is going to be out for a while, suspended. So, I mean, you can make a strong argument. I mean, they got Juju Smith-Schuster and a couple other guys. They don't even really have a number one. So there's a void there. You don't really want that.
There might be something to that, though. Maybe. When you have receivers by committee.
Yeah. Well, what they say, when Tyreek Hill was left, what's happened when they left? Right? Oh, my God, you're letting the playmaker walk. Where they won 2 Super Bowls or something since he left?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they were just fine, right?
Yeah, they have enough players.
But
yeah, I mean, they got some speed with Xavier Worthy.
Yeah. Xavier Worthy should end up making another step this year,
Marquise Brown still there?
No. Yes. He is.
So you got those two. I mean, thing is, they had Coach Reed knows the parts of the recipe that makes it work, and it doesn't always have to. Tyreek Hill wasn't Tyreek Hill before he played for the Chiefs. Would Tyreek Hill be Tyreek Hill without playing for Andy Reid and the Chiefs? I don't know.
Probably.
I don't know. But like I said before, when he was drafted, he was not drafted to be what he was. Yeah. He was drafted to be a gadget guy and a punt returner. And no one could have expected him to do that, but he wasn't drafted as a number one wide receiver. He wasn't drafted to be one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL. There was no thoughts of that until he started playing his rookie year. And, Jeremy Maclin was the veteran in that room who suffered an injury later in that year, who Tyreek got to watch. And Jeremy's work ethic and how he approached his teammates and how he was in a facility was outstanding. So Tyreek was a huge beneficiary of not only playing for Andy, but having Jeremy there as a young player. So those veteran receivers that handle themselves like a Jeremy Maclin are huge in an NFL locker room.
So again, to recap, Nick's answer to the quarterback that has the most riding on this season is Dak Prescott.
Yeah, how do we even get more?
Well, no, that's good. That's good analysis. Like what the question or the prompt was, which quarterback in the NFL has the most riding on this season? And for whatever reason, justify it, right? And I think you've done that really well with Dak Prescott. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
And it's all relative, right? You might say Lamar, the guy had like an MVP-like season last year. I mean, a lot of people felt like he should have won the MVP, even though Josh Allen won it. And you're right. The guy's won like 75% of his regular season games. He's a fantastic quarterback. Like he's done everything you can ask of him, right? But here's the thing. You only get so many cracks at this, right? And he's in a loaded AFC. The quarterbacks in the AFC are a problem for him and for the Ravens as a whole. You've got Pat Mahomes, who obviously has been the guy, right? You've got Joe Burrow, who beat Pat Mahomes once and went to a Super Bowl.
Yep.
You've got Josh Allen, who beat him last year 27-25 when Mark Andrews dropped that ball in the corner of the end zone to let the Ravens, I think, tie the game. Okay, so you only get so many cracks at this, especially when you have a crowded AFC like this with other very, very, very talented quarterbacks, young quarterbacks at that. And if you look at his roster this year, Derrick Henry's back. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman at receiver. They go pick up DeAndre Hopkins. I think DeAndre's still got something left. He's not what he was 3-4 years ago.
Oh, but he can still do it.
He can still go, right? And then Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely at tight end. This is a very talented group. When they've hit the playoffs, so as a starter, Lamar's 3-5 in the playoffs. When they hit the playoffs, mistakes tend to come up. Not on Lamar's fault. Turnovers, defenses had some issues at times in the playoffs. They're very well coached. I'm a big John Harbaugh fan. This is a good organization, good franchise.
Yes, one of the best.
But I feel like Lamar, look, this window's not going to be open forever, right? So we can't just sit here and say especially with the way Joe Burrow was arguably at an MVP level last year, his team just wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's playing as good a football as he's played in his entire life.
Yeah.
And Pat Mahomes is still Pat Mahomes, right? And the Chiefs are going to be a problem. They're picked to win the division, and all they do is go to Super Bowls. And so I think with Lamar, they've got to find a way. And it feels like this year, they've got to find a way. You only get so many cracks at this. They've got to find a way to burst through. He's got to beat Josh Allen. He's got to beat Joe Burrow. He's got to beat Pat Mahomes if he plays those guys, right? And statistically, it has not all been his fault, but he's got to make his mark, right? Beyond the regular season. I'm not trying to say he's just a regular season quarterback. I know he's 3-5 in the playoffs, and he's played some good football in the playoffs. But there is enough talent on this roster, both sides of the ball, but especially as I look at what they have offensively, for him to be able to surpass these guys and make his mark, right? Now, Josh Allen technically hasn't pushed all the way through the Super Bowl either. Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes both have, right? But who's going to come out of the AFC? I think there's only so many cracks at doing this. And I think this year, Lamar, I feel for him and the organization the pressure to get this done. Because all these other quarterbacks are like the same age you are, roughly. Mahomes a little bit older, obviously, but you've got to find a way to get this done. And so I think from that standpoint, I can make a case for a lot of guys around the league. I mean, I could even go Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers is the best in my lifetime. Now again, I was super young when Joe Montana was doing it, but in my lifetime where I'm watching football, I have not enjoyed watching a quarterback do his thing more than I've enjoyed watching Aaron Rodgers. First ballot Hall of Famer, only won Super Bowl, unbelievable player. Is he really going to finish with a dud last year and a dud this year, or is he going to step it up this year? I can make a really strong case that it's on Aaron this year.
Yeah.
But I'm going Lamar Jackson.
No,
for the reasons that I just said.
No, I like that too. And I think Baltimore and Harbaugh, I mean, they're like the Chiefs. I mean, what an outstanding coach. We practiced against him when I was in Jacksonville, played against him before, just been around him a few times. I really like John Harbaugh. I really like how he is. I like how he conducts his team. They're tough. They work hard. Their training camps are tough. The culture they've built there is a winning culture. They win every year. Yeah. They just can't get over that hump. I agree with you, Lamar. Outstanding player, has weapons around him. Roquan Smith on the defense, anchoring that defense. I was with Roquan in Chicago, one of the best defensive players I've ever seen in my entire life. His understanding of the football game and putting players in the right position and seeing what's happening up front to where the ball is going to go is the best I've ever seen. And that's why he basically leads the league in tackles every single year. They have the unit to do it, but the AFC is loaded. There's a lot of great quarterbacks in the AFC. There's a lot of great teams. Baltimore is going to have a well-rounded team. I mean, Harbaugh is a special teams coach. They're always going to be well-coached on special teams. Offense is going to put up fireworks, and defense is going to be solid with who they have, and Roquan anchoring the defense. I mean, if this was a year, it is closing. The timeline is closing, but I do think that they're always a huge threat. Let's keep real. It's the Chiefs, it's the Bills. It's the Ravens
and the Bengals. Yeah,
the Bengals. We just don't know. We're always surprised when they do well, and then when they don't do well, we're not surprised because they've never when they went to the Super Bowl that year. it was a surprise. But the big reason they're having so much success is they have enough power on the offensive side of the ball at, receiver, and Joe Burrow is playing at elite level.
Yeah.
But like, he needs help.
Well, remember we did this exercise, like it was sort of subjective, right? Like I'm not saying Lamar, I'm not comparing him to Dak as far as what he has to prove. That's not my point. Like what Lamar has to prove is at a much higher level, right? That he can become or get past these other 3 elite quarterbacks in the AFC and make his mark, right? With Dak, the story's a little bit different, but they just got to find a way to get it done, right? So those are QBs with what we think have the most writing on this season. Okay, so shifting gears to divisions. As Nick and I talked off camera a lot about divisions we thought would be really compelling to watch over the course of the season, there are a couple that popped out, and we want to hit both of those today. And I want to start with the AFC West. The AFC West, I mean, look no further than just the coaches across this conference, this division, right? You've got Andy Reid, who's obviously been there a while. And the AFC West, by the way, has been owned by the Chiefs. They've won 9 straight division titles. Okay, no, that's insane. We're going to be watching a documentary on the Chiefs, by the way.
I was a part of one of those too.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a part of one of those.
9 straight division titles. That's how long they've been doing this. Nick was a part of it.
Yeah,
right?
2016, baby.
And then you go down the list, like Jim Harbaugh, right, for the Chargers. Then you have Sean Payton, who's obviously a fantastic head coach for Denver. And then you got Pete Carroll. Right, all these guys,
Hall of Fame head coaches,
fantastic head
all
coaches,
all
right?
Hall of Fames.
Yeah. When your worst team is coached, or I should say, going in your longest odds team is coached by Pete Carroll, this is going to be a battle. Yeah. Right. So as I'm thinking about how to frame this sort of analysis of the AFC West and maybe give people some value on where to go with it, because if you look at AFC West odds, obviously. The Chiefs are up there. They're like a little better than even money, or a little worse than even money, I should say. It's not like an overwhelming favorite. But I'm going to go with the team to watch, being the team that's not too far behind them right now going into the season. And this is becoming a much more popular take by a lot of people as they look at the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the reason I say this is, like, you go back to last year. This is a very balanced football team, and they're very well coached. Okay. So you look at let's start with their defense. They had 63 sacks last year, which is a franchise record. They ranked near the top in most defensive categories. Total yards allowed, they were 7th. Yards per play, they were number 2. Scoring defense, they were number 3. Their defensive end, Zach Allen, had 8.5 sacks last year. He just signed an extension over 4 years for $102 million. Their corner, Patrick Surtain II, was 2024 Defensive Player of the Year. Okay, so this defense proved last year, like, they're here to stay.
Yeah.
And when you go play in Mile High or they come to you, they're going to be a problem. The offense is also very intriguing. And a lot of this is the wild card here is Bo Nix and the step he makes in year 2. Okay, so Bo Nix last year threw for 3,775 yards and 29 touchdowns. Those are franchise rookie records. Where is his progression in year 2? I trust Sean Payton. I think he's a fantastic football coach. He's paired up with Joe Lombardi again to be his offensive coordinator. And Joe and Sean have done a lot of good things together over the course of their career. And they're coaching Bo Nix. If you look at their offensive line, their pass block efficiency rating last year was fantastic. All 5 starters are back. Garrett Bowles, Ben Powers, Luke Wattenberg, to name a couple. Right tackle Mike McGlinchey. This is a really good group. If you look at what they added in 2025, on defense they had Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga. Both good players at 2 different levels of the defense. They had Evan Ingram at tight end and J.K. Dobbins at running back. Okay, so there are some significant pieces here. And then you look out on the outside and Troy Franklin, right, the receiver as well, and getting that guy going as well. This is a dangerous group. So the Chiefs are minus 110 to win the division. The Broncos are plus 280 to plus 300 in that range. I think there's a lot of value there. This is a very well-balanced team. And the Chiefs, yes, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Yes, they've gotten better up front on the offensive line. Yes, they look good in their 3rd preseason game. But you can't get that vision out of your mind last year after the Super Bowl about where the Chiefs really are, right? Do they bounce back and get back to it? Because there were many times last year where the Chiefs didn't seem like themselves and they struggled. They were barely winning games in different ways than we're used to seeing that happen. And the division's getting tougher. I haven't even talked about the Chargers.
Yeah.
But I think the Denver Broncos have the potential to be a problem in the AFC West this year, especially for the Chiefs. And I think the Broncos at plus 280 to plus 300, as far as a future bet of winning the division, that's something to seriously consider. I can't wait to watch the Broncos this year and Bo Nix and his progression, because this is going to be super interesting.
No, I agree. I think that the Broncos are the team that can upseed the Kansas City Chiefs for every reason you said. I think with Sean Payton and Bo Nix, it's going to be a lot of fun watching them. I also think having their defense dialed in is huge. I will take a different take. I do think the surprise team, I'm not saying they're going to upseed it, but I think they're going to be a dangerous team any game. It's not going to be one of those ones where you step in and know it's a victory. Is the Las Vegas Raiders because of Pete Carroll.
So you don't think they're going to finish last?
I don't think they're going to finish last. I think it'll be between the Chargers and the Raiders fighting for it. I do think the premier teams will be the Chiefs and the Broncos. I think that's what everyone's saying. I don't know. I just like Pete Carroll. I like the Raiders. The last 3 years, I think Geno Smith has thrown 20 touchdowns to 3 interceptions in a dome. He's going to play a lot of games in domes this year. So he throws it really well in the dome, and Geno can sling it. He's a smart quarterback. He knows he's good with the underneath stuff, the RPO stuff. He can run with his legs a little bit, take shots downfield. I do think that they'll be a surprise team, and I just love the environment I've heard Pete Carroll makes. I mean, you've played for Pete. I just think that that's what the Raiders need right now. They need that shot of energy, that shot of competitiveness. I mean, you're playing in an awesome dome in Vegas. I do think that they're going to cause some issues in the AFC West.
It's a division that, like we said, has been owned by the Chiefs.
This is my favorite division right now in the NFL. I think this is the best overall division in the NFL. I think every team is going to have a solid year. I don't think there's a better division from top to bottom than the AFC West going into the season.
And by the way, Chiefs and Chargers open up with each other in Brazil on Friday night, 5 p.m. Pacific. That would be, I think, 9 p.m. Brazil time. Not that that matters, but 5 p.m. Pacific is 8 Eastern is when that game kicks off in Brazil. Chiefs, no Rashee Rice. He's suspended. He had 79 catches last year. That's a big deal. I think when we get into our picks later in our pick segment, we'll get into like that, specifically that matchup. But what a great AFC West matchup to start the season down in Brazil. That's going to be a really interesting one to watch.
I mean, you get to see how are the Chiefs after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then you get to see, do the Chargers continue the next step with Harbaugh as the head coach, right? And then where's Justin Herbert? Like, is he continuing to progress, and is he taking that next step to giving them an opportunity to make a run in the playoffs and potentially to the Super Bowl? I mean, we know with Harbaugh, he has the ability with his coaching pedigree and what he's done throughout his career to make it happen. So that's a big reason. I mean, you look at all the head coaches in the AFC West, and they're all Hall of Fame head coaches. That's a big reason why this conference is the best.
So the Chargers, I mentioned the Broncos are plus – I'll go back. Chiefs are minus 110 to win the division. Broncos are plus 280 to plus 300. Chargers are not far behind them, around plus 310 to plus 330. And the Raiders are plus 1,200.
Yeah, they're down.
Now, to be clear, that doesn't necessarily mean that they think it's like that much of a long shot for them to sneak in a third.
Yeah.
But it's hard to believe a Pete Carroll team's going to finish last in the division. Nonetheless, it's his first year and he's got some work to do. It's really hard to believe that Broncos, Chargers, or Chiefs are going to finish last in that division. So it's almost like process of elimination by me arriving at like, it's hard to see the Raiders climbing out of the cellar right now in that division. But because what are you going to do? Harbaugh's going to finish last in the AFC West? Hard to believe. Well, might be right, but it's hard to believe.
And the thing that no one's talking about, and I know this all too well because I was a part of this happening, was we're all talking about this week one, right? Everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
What happens if there's an injury? There's always injuries that happen. And then, I'm looking at the backup quarterbacks, for my list right here, Broncos, Stidham, Minshew, potentially Pickett, or O'Connell is on IR at the start of the season. Then you got Trey Lance with the Chargers. I mean, I look at that like if something happened to any of those players, I mean, you got Gardner Minshew, who's proven himself in KC, so I feel like they're in a good position with Gardner. Different style player than Pat. Raiders, I worry about a little bit. It's Kenny Pickett. I don't know how that's going to go. And then I do like the Chargers. I do think Trey Lance took a huge progression this off. I think he did well. I thought he had a great preseason. And I think it showed.
I'm gonna walk off the set for.
I'm just saying.
So all of a sudden Trey Lance can play.
No, I'm just saying as a backup. I'm not saying as a starter. I'm saying like if something happened to a starter, which
he's
backup,
the last guy I'm turning to of all the guys you just mentioned.
He wouldn't be my last guy.
He's got like no reps, no like meaningful reps where he did anything where you're like, okay, this guy. And I'm not even putting the top 10 label on him. Just purely as a player in the league. He's done nothing other than be drafted high to lead you believe that he's a service.
But I mean, Jarrett Stidham, you're taking him?
I'd probably play Jarrett Stidham over Trey Lance.
Kenny Pickett?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I guess you'd put
These
him.
guys all
I guess
actually,
you play him dead
these
last.
guys all actually have meaningful reps, right? Like Trey Lance.
I mean, I thought he looked good in the preseason.
Trey
I
Lance
thought,
wouldn't be on
hey,
this.
he's been waiting for this time. He's been hungry. I mean, he's been in that valley for years where everyone's like surprised he's still in the league, and all of a sudden he has a solid preseason.
We were having a good discussion until all of a sudden he tries.
Hey, I'm happy.
This is a good backup.
Hey, I like him with Harbaugh. I'm just saying, like,
You're a nice guy. You're considerate of the quarterback's feelings.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a chance. I'm not far from the Los Angeles Chargers. Maybe I have to, go out there for a little bit.
That makes you feel good.
We'll go warm up again. We'll go throw some balls.
All right, so that's the AFC West. We went over the odds. Obviously, the Chiefs are the favorite, but we both didn't sit here to talk to you about how we think the Chiefs are going to dominate this division.
Yeah.
They've won 9 straight. They're going for 10 straight. This is a dynasty. We're going to be watching documentaries on them one day.
For a long time.
But there are other teams in this division. No surprise to our listeners. I think Denver. You think the Raiders. I think Denver is a problem for the Chiefs. And we'll rehash this as the season goes because I think this is going to be a lot of fun to pay attention to. All right, so we're going to shift gears to a different division, and this has to do with what's going on this week and a division that means a lot to Nick as well, and that's the NFC East. Interesting little tidbit about the NFC East. Talk about a competitive division. Now, a lot of it has been the Cowboys and the Eagles. Competitive from that like top heavy, right? But as far as winning the division, we just talked about the AFC West. Chiefs have won 9 straight. There has not been a team to repeat as an NFC East champion in 21 years. 21 years. We've got to go all the way back to the Eagles in 2003 and 2004 to see a team that was a repeat champ of the division. So history tells us that the Eagles this year, coming off a Super Bowl, by the way, they were coming off a Super Bowl in 2017 too. Eagles have an uphill battle to do that based on history. Now, Cowboys aren't what they normally are, right? They're not even, as far as odds go, they're not even second. They're third, right? Second in the division is the Commanders for good reason, right? A lot of talent on that team.
Yeah.
And Jaden Daniels is a fantastic player. But keep that in mind as you think about how the NFC is going to play out this year. History says this division, you don't just dominate it year in and year out, right? Things happen. I know injuries happen, all these things. It's crazy. And we're going to use this sort of as context, too, to talk about the Dallas-Philly game this Thursday. But, Nick, NFC East, something to pay attention to, not necessarily who you think is going to win it, but is there a team that you think is going to shake things up and help decide how this whole thing plays out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we know how I feel about the Eagles. I won't even go there. I think the team that the Eagles are most fearful of are the Commanders. I mean, it's the team that they played in the NFC title game. I was there. Got to see him play. Jaden Daniels going into his sophomore season. They have some great veterans. Zach Ertz is there, a legendary Eagle. Will be in the Eagles Hall of Fame someday at tight end, so he'll anchor and help that leadership on that team. I think Washington, Dan Quinn being the head coach, they have all the pieces in place. I think that they're the biggest threat for the Eagles in the NFC East currently.
Yeah, they've made some roster additions too. I agree with you, by the way. I think it's going to be between the Eagles and the Commanders, and the Commanders' ability to have Jaden Daniels take that next step in his second year under Cliff Kingsbury. He's got Terry McLaurin back, who had a contract dispute during training camp. Terry's ankle had been bothering him too. I don't think he'll be himself at least the first 3 weeks. He'll play, but I don't think he'll be himself. It'll take a couple weeks, and he's by far their best receiver. I mean, Terry's numbers last year by way of having Jaden in town and Cliff Kingsbury as a play caller in town, Terry's output went through the roof.
Yeah.
13 touchdowns. His second best season is 7 touchdowns all the way back in his rookie year. Terry's a good player, but he just hasn't had this system and this quarterback in place. Like
he's got some stability finally.
No question, and he's benefiting from it. They've also added Deebo Samuel. Now, for those of you that watch Deebo play with the Niners, like when Deebo's healthy.
What's his weight at right now?
Who knows?
I've seen some memes.
He might look like a fullback.
I know.
But he can still run.
He can still play football.
He can still run.
He's getting bigger and bigger each year.
For those of you that watched him play with the Niners, you saw the Swiss Army knife that he is, but oftentimes he took too many hits. He'd get hurt a lot. That's Deebo's deal, right? Is like he'd be trucking, and all of a sudden, boom, Deebo's out. And you're like, damn. And you saw the Niners start to change the way they used him, which takes away some of what makes him so potent to try to keep him healthy. And now he ends up with the Commanders, right? He's a weapon. No question about that. I'm excited to see. Now, it was fun to watch him with Shanahan in San Francisco, but I'm also excited to see him work with Cliff Kingsbury because Cliff is doing what he should be doing, and that is calling plays at the NFL level, right? I know as a head coach, it's been dicey at times, but as a play caller, both at college and the NFL level, when he's focusing solely on that with the talent like he's got there, he's been fantastic. Jaden Daniels is a really good player, won the Heisman Trophy. he reached a whole new level last year. And a lot of that is attributed to the way that Cliff brought him along and the positions he put him in with answers to pressure and all those things.
Yep.
I mean, I just like vividly remember that night game last year where he gets a zero pressure and throws that double move to Terry on the outside. Like the fact that Cliff dialed that up for him as a young guy and put the faith in him to do that, and he executed like that, incredible. So, and they also added Laramie Tunsil as well. They've got to get better at stopping the run. That's going to be an interesting thing. I remember in the playoff game last year, most people from a betting standpoint thought that was the edge, was like, hey, Washington playing Detroit in Detroit, Detroit's going to run all over them. Now that game, the sort of complexion of that game changed quickly because Washington was moving the ball so well that like Detroit made some mistakes. There was a pick six. The game just totally got flipped on its head.
Yep.
But if you can force them, if you can get a lead and you can consistently run the ball, like if you can't stop the run against Philly, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And so ultimately that's probably what tilts this division. By the way, odds to win the division, Philly's at -145. That's a strong favorite. If you look forward on a future bet, -145, taking into account all the things that can happen, guys can get hurt, all that, that is a strong favorite to win the division. Washington at number 2 is +205. So note that. AFC West, we mentioned the Chiefs are only like -110 to -115. Broncos are behind, like not that. They're +250. Washington is a closer favorite.
Yeah.
But the division leaders way even higher than that Washington's at +205. And then the others are long shots. Dallas at +800 and the Giants at +1900. It feels like those two teams at the bottom, you can almost draw a line.
Yeah.
Not going to compete for a division title. They may get a key win to shake things up.
Yep.
They may beat Washington or something to shake things up. But it really feels like the Eagles and Commanders and the way these teams are built, and is Washington going to be physical enough up front to consistently stop Philly when they play each other twice? Those are going to be really fun to watch. And it sort of feels like ultimately that will decide it. Like if Saquon stays healthy and the Eagles are who they are the whole year, as good as Washington is as what they do offensively, you wonder on defense, like, can you guys really bang with these guys like this to win the division? Answer feels like no to me, but the Commanders are still going to be fun to follow.
No, I love that we're talking about the AFC West and the NFC East. I think both these conferences are outstanding. I agree with you with the Cowboys and Giants. I do think both those teams, with the Cowboys and Giants being at the bottom, like they both have a lot to prove, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a first-year head coach in Dallas. You have all the Micah Parsons stuff we just chatted about. But then the Giants, I mean, how long is Russell Wilson the starter? Does Jackson Dart start this year and play games? I mean, we all think he does based on everything. And if you look at their social media, most of the pictures are Jackson Dart. They're excited about their future, but does Russell Wilson really have the reins this entire season or not? That's where the NFL's fun. There's so many huge storylines going into this season. The new quarterbacks on new teams, Russell Wilson being one of those. That he's one of those ones where it's really quiet. I think it's really quiet in New York with him, which surprises me with a Hall of Fame player like himself going to New York. And I think that just says a lot about Jackson Dart. I think what he showed in the preseason, his swagger, how he is in the locker room with the guys, is the reason they're really excited. But at the same time, Russell Wilson still has a lot of good ball in him. And I do agree, Dallas and the New York Giants are going to mix things up in the NFC East by a win they shouldn't have got. Yeah. They're going to get a cheap win that's going to mix things up a little bit for sure.
Rapid fire. One word. Who wins the AFC West?
Broncos.
I say Broncos too. So the 9-year trend, the 9-year
I think it's stopping this
broken.
year. I think it's stopping.
Who wins the NFC East?
Eagles. We're breaking that trend too.
I'm with you on that one too. So yeah, both trends break.
Both trends are going to break this year.
So the Eagles,
trend breakers.
we think the Eagles are going to repeat for the first time in 21 years.
Yep.
That any team repeats in that division.
Yep.
And then we think the 9-year streak that the Chiefs have gets broken. We're saying by Denver, could be somebody else, but I think it feels like Denver. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
So those are going to be fun to watch. Those are good divisions. All right. Last show, we introduced a new segment that we've been super excited about. Every good show has segments, right? Every good show has something to look forward to. And we're here. It's time. You ready?
I'm ready.
We're going to make some picks. And so I'd like to invite, I don't know if it's an alter ego or if you just stay yourself. I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah.
I would like to invite Big Pick Nick to the stage.
Let's go.
You ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll. This is what it's about.
What an awesome nickname, by the way. And I know, like, we talked about it before, and you talk about just things just spontaneously coming together. When things rhyme like that, it just works. And, we had our bonus episode with Brent Selleck going to be out shortly. And Brent Selleck is in tune to Big Pick Nick as well.
He loves Big Pick Nick.
He loves Big Pick Nick. Yeah. And
it's a big part of his life.
It's a big part of his life, big part of everybody's life. And so we're thrilled to be kicking off the inaugural Big Picnic segment, we're going to look at the marquee matchups. So we're not going to do every single game on the slate this week. We're going to focus on the marquee matchups. There are 4 of them. I'm going to go in order of how we're going to cover them. Chargers-Chiefs in Brazil on Friday night. Ravens-Bills, Sunday Night Football. Vikings-Bears, Monday Night Football. And then we'll end with Cowboys-Eagles for obvious reasons. That game's coming up this Thursday, prime time, as big as it gets to open an NFL season. Eagles hosting the Cowboys at the Link. So here we go. So, Nick, I'm going to come to you on each of these games. You give me the pick, and you tell me why. Chargers-Chiefs, Brazil, Friday night. That line is Chiefs -3 in Brazil. What do you think?
I'm taking the Chiefs because they're going to start the season off hot. Chargers are still figuring things out. Chiefs are going to be dialed in Brazil. They know how to handle all these crazy situations. Andy Reid's going to have them ready to roll. Mahomes is going to start out with fireworks, and I feel like we're going to get a Travis Kelce touchdown and a Taylor Swift sighting.
There are 2 things I think are going to keep this close. I think the Chargers pass rush against the Chiefs offensive line. I know the Chiefs offensive line has improved. First rounder at left tackle. There's a reassigned guard in the mix as well. But they'll face Khalil Mack, who I think has something left, and Tuli Tuipulotu, good young player as a pass rusher. Let's also not forget the Chargers now have Najee Harris as well. He had a firework incident in the offseason.
Sounds like he's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, non-football injury, but it sounds like he's going to be ready to go. He's a guy that allows you to possess the football as well. You add him to their stable of backs. Does he change the game? No, but he does give the Chargers an ability to do what Jim Harbaugh, even though he's got Justin Herbert, what Jim Harbaugh wants to do, and that's run the football. That is a Jim Harbaugh deal, right? Even though he's a quarterback, he wants to run the football.
Yep.
So for those reasons, I do think this game stays close. The Chiefs do not have Rashee Rice. They're, as usual, their marquee receiver is Travis Kelce. Travis had a ton of catches last year. Is he getting older? Yes. He looks leaner. I think he's ready to roll. They're going to need a lot from him.
Yep.
You mentioned Marquise Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Xavier Worthy's in the mix as well. There's no real true number one other than Travis. So for all those reasons, I do think this game is closer, but I still lean Chiefs to cover this at -3. I think it ends up being a game. I think it's under a touchdown. I think it's between 3 and 7 points, somewhere in that.
Does Travis get over 75 yards receiving?
Yes. Okay. I think. Well, they got to feed him.
I know,
right? And Xavier Worthy's going to have a good year, but no Rashee Rice. They got to feed him. Rashee Rice in 2023, 79 catches, and then last year had a knee injury that held him out. So they've done a lot without him. But remember, last year wasn't pretty, and part of it was because lack of playmakers on the outside.
True.
Right? Okay. Ravens-Bills, Sunday Night Football. Bills -1.5, Big Picnic. Where you at?
I have Ravens. We just talked a lot about Lamar. Always great in the regular season. MVPs of the league, outstanding player, all these things. Versus Josh Allen and the Bills. High expectation for Josh Allen and the Bills. I'm picking the Ravens to start the season out on top against a great opponent in the Buffalo Bills.
So you think the Ravens win the game?
Ravens.
It's only -1.5.
No, I'm picking Ravens beat the Bills. I don't even
the Bills.
Yeah, I think they beat the Bills. They cover the spread. So
that game is in Buffalo, right? And this is where they played last year, where the Ravens lost 27-25. Mark Andrews drops that ball in the flat, tough catch, drops the ball. They lose the game. One concern I have for the Bills, secondary is thin.
Yeah. So
their best corner last year, Maxwell Harrison, is out for 4 weeks. And their other corner, Tre'Davious White, who's been a good corner for a long time, he was injured in the preseason. The last thing we know is he left practice like August 20th, August 21st. Left practice, and as of now, the word is that he's out. And so you have both your corners out, which could be a problem against this offense, right? I went over a minute ago what the Ravens have at receiver with Rashad Bateman and all these guys. Could be a problem, right, with Trey Flowers, too. There's a lot of speed on the outside, so that could potentially be an issue. What the Ravens need to do, unlike what they did last year in the playoffs, like they turned the ball over and couldn't force takeaways. That was and they were right there to still win it. They got their butt kicked in the turnover margin. They were still right there to win the game. So because of what I said earlier and how much is on Lamar Jackson this year to finally break through. Now, this won't be the game this is not a playoff game. It's just a regular season game. I'm not going to overstate it, but it's a big one. But there's only so many cracks at this. And the AFC is loaded with good young quarterbacks. And Lamar, while he's made it very clear that he's one of the league's elite players, he has not been able to break through when he gets to those really, really key moments. So this is going to be a great opportunity for the Ravens. I also think Ravens money line, plenty of value there. It's not going to be huge plus money, but at Bills -1.5, I think it's that for a reason. I think Vegas is looking at that saying, go ahead. You can basically have the Bills money line for even money at home. Go ahead and take it. It seems obvious. Oh, well, Bills at home to start the season?
Yeah.
On Sunday Night Football? I'm taking the Bills, right? They beat them last year.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's coming off an MVP.
Yeah. Nope.
It feels like they're pushing me in that direction. And for that reason, if the Ravens can correct those mistakes from the playoffs, I think this is a game that they can and should win, given the balance of that roster.
I agree.
All right, Vikings-Bears.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy going into his second year, didn't play at all last year, and Caleb Williams in his second year. Vikings are -1.5 on the road at the Bears. That's super interesting. -1.5 on the road at the Bears on Monday Night Football. Big picnic. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, Bears aren't typically great on primetime football. I think the last time they won on Monday Night Football was 2023. They beat the Vikings 12-10, which, but I went back and forth on this one for a while, and I came down to this conclusion. J.J. McCarthy going in his second year, he's basically a rookie quarterback. No time playing. Obviously, he suffered an injury last year, left him out. Yeah, he did get to see a preparation, all that. Going into Chicago, the Soldier Field, play there, I have to go with the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are going to start the season with a victory. Ben Johnson's going to get his first big victory on Monday Night Football, and they're going to feel good in House Hall.
We're not supposed to agree on this stuff as much as we're agreeing.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about this before.
We're not.
At all. We don't pre-record or pre-talk about this.
I look at the Bears playmakers. Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift at running back, Colston Loveland, the rookie tight end. I look at what they have on the offensive line, adding Drew Dahlman and Joe Tooney on the inside. Both guards in the center position are all new. That was the weak point for them last year. Play calling was a weak point for them last year. You kind of assume that they're going to figure that out. You have basically a rookie in J.J. McCarthy going in who's got arguably the best receiver in football.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's a problem, right?
He's a major problem.
Yeah. And Kevin O'Connell as an offensive head coach is really good. They'll have a good plan for this defense. But I'm also going Bears. They are my favorite longest odd team in any division this year. It's only -1.5. It feels about even. And I think the Bears at Soldier Field to kick off this Monday Night Football season with a coach that we're all dying to see. Look, Ben Johnson's never been a head coach before. It's really easy to sit here and say that like everything that he did at Detroit, play calling wise, is just going to carry over and is going to look the same. I don't know about that, but this is going to be a very intriguing team to watch this year. And I think it's going to be an exciting team to watch. A team that moves the football. As long as Caleb is making good decisions, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going Bears money line too. Plus money on that as well as the Ravens, just slight plus money. Road teams early in the season. Didn't you have a stat on that? Like road teams and home teams early in the season?
As I was sort of looking over my notes last night, I was curious just from playing. You always playing at home can be an advantage or it can be a disadvantage based on where you play. But first week of the season, comfortability, don't have to travel. I'm thinking, all right, I wonder what the win-loss record for home teams was last year. And more teams lost at home week one than the road teams. So road teams won. All right, then I'm like, all right. I just kept going. All right, what about 2023? What about 2022? And it was always the road teams were more victorious, over 500. And I was like, all right, finally, I was like, what was the last time the road team had a higher winning percentage week one? And it was 2018. So league-wide, the stat was road teams in week one typically win more games than the home team.
So road teams are over 50%.
They're over 50%. And a lot of it was like 7-9, 7-9, 6-10 because this was 16-game seasons back then. But it was actually interesting that the home field advantage week one. I do think that sometimes you're more nervous week one to play in front of your home fans because you haven't been out there to play a real game.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're a road team, yeah, you don't have many fans in the stand, but you feel like it's truly your team against everyone else. So you're blocking out the fans. You're like, oh, screw it. Like, we're here. We're going to take them down in their home. It made me think maybe the nerves are less when you're the road team than the home team week one, just because you haven't gotten that rhythm of the NFL season. That doesn't happen until week 4 to week 6 where you finally hit that stride of, preparation, the games, and the travel. So the road teams, let's see if that trend, we'll look at that statistic next week, but we'll see if the road teams come out victorious.
Okay, so every game we've talked about so far for marquee matchups, Chargers, Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Vikings, Bears, have all been very tight lines. So when you pick the line, you're also kind of picking the winner, right? That's how we looked at it. This game's a little bit different. So Thursday night game, the Cowboys go to the Link to play the Eagles. Right now it's Eagles -8.5. The Eagles are an 8.5 point favorite in this game. Generally, Nick, I err on the side of divisional games taking points. That's generally how I feel. And I like, for example, if the Chiefs were playing at the Chargers and the Chiefs were a favorite, not in Brazil, they were just at like the Charger Stadium, I would take the points because these division games are always tight.
Yeah.
Right. With Cowboys-Eagles, though, like the Cowboys are in a tough spot right now, and they've got a lot of distractions going on. Whereas the Eagles, like, you're dropping the banner. There's going to be a lot going on at that game too. 8.5 points. This is less about who wins, even though I want you to tell me who wins, and I want to focus on the 8.5 points because it's going to tell us how the game's going to go. How do you see this going?
Yeah, we talk a little bit about this in our bonus episode with Brent Selleck, so I'll let y'all listen to that. That was a fun episode that is going to be recorded and released the day before the game. Winning the game, Philadelphia. With the points, 8.5 points, Philadelphia. I think that, first quarter might be ugly, might be a low-scoring game, but I do think that first-year head coach Schottenheimer, which is a surprise hire by me, hiring within, that just – I don't get that hire. I think it's someone that Jerry probably has a relationship with, that he can sort of like dictate different things, which is, owner can do what they want, but I don't think it's always healthy to have it that way. I think Philadelphia, because they won the Super Bowl and did everything with all the guys that are back that are in their positions they played in the Super Bowl, are going to be ready to go. That O-line and D-line are going to be it's O-line, D-line. First game of the season, every game is O-line, D-line. How are they playing? Mm-hmm. Philly's going to be dialed in. Saquon's going to have a solid game. I think you're going to see Jalen Hurts throw the ball around. I mean, he's got two of the best receivers in football with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They're going to win by more than 8.5 points.
I don't have any doubt in my mind that the Eagles win this football game. If you think about what they're trying to accomplish this year, to repeat as divisional champions, which we said hasn't happened in 21 years, that's very difficult to do. And then repeat as world champions is also very difficult to do. But the core is back, right? Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Lane Johnson, Jalen Carter. I mean, they're loaded. They lose Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, but those are replaceable pieces for them, right? This is a loaded football team. And you have the best offensive player in the game in Saquon Barkley, who last year had 345 carries, okay? That's more than he's had in any year of his career. In fact, it's 17% more than he had in any other year of his career. So Saquon carried a huge load last year. So if we're talking season long, a lot of it's going to be dependent upon whether they can continue to ride him like that. Can he do that again this year? We'll see, right? Like statistics say that like another 345 carry season will result in him getting banged up. Now, I pray and hope that doesn't happen because I love watching the guy play and I'm pulling for the Eagles, but hard to say. So given all the pieces that are back and where this team is at, yes, they win this football game. But I'm not willing to lay the 8.5 points.
Yeah.
I think Dallas is going to come down a little more us against the world than people think. Yes, they went through some distractions during camp, but remember, like a lot of the distractions about Micah and all those discussions were really centered around like you and I and the media and people talking about this stuff, right? When you're in camp, Micah's kind of out of sight, out of mind, right? And I got to give these guys a little more credit that they're trying to build towards something. And I think you're going to see a lot of effort from Dallas and Brian Schottenheimer as his first year as a head coach there.
Has he ever been a head coach anywhere?
I don't believe so, but I'm not certain.
Yeah. This will be interesting.
I think you're going to see a lot of effort from these guys. And I think they're going to roll into a place and they know nobody expects them to win. Shoot, it's a divisional matchup to start the season and you're an 8.5 point dog. Nobody expects this team to win or even compete for that matter. And for that reason, given the talent on that side of the ball on offense, I told you I don't love the mix between CeeDee Lamb. I don't love pairing him with George Pickens, but I think they're going to keep the game closer. Whether it's a backdoor cover where they score late to end up losing by 6, I don't know. But I think this thing stays with an 8.5. But I think the Eagles, I also feel like it's a game where as it flows, you're like, Eagles may not cover, but they're not going to lose this game. You know, those types of games where you're like, it never really felt like the Eagles.
I mean, 8.5's a lot of points in the NFL. That's a lot of points.
Well, and how often do defending Super Bowl champs that come home and they're, you know, all this fanfare going on and they start a little slow?
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on, right? Playing at home and all that. I could see that happening. I could see Dallas coming out and maybe starting faster, never feeling like Dallas is going to win the game, but I still would not lay the 8.5 points, and that's where I fall on that.
I think the X factor in the game is playing in the link is always so difficult, especially raising the banner Thursday night, opening game, and it's the Cowboys. I mean, I don't think this has ever been done in Philly because, I mean, I played in the last one. It was against the Falcons. So this is a NFC East rival, probably your most hated rival. In the Cowboys, I think the X factor is going to be the environment is going to be absolutely insane. And we know in Philly it can turn the other way where there's boos and stuff, but there's just so much firepower on this offense. I mean, it is insane. So because of the firepower and Jalen Hurts can also run the ball, so it makes it difficult on the defense to scheme the run. I mean, they're a team that can cover the 8.5 points, and start out the season with all the distractions and all the Super Bowl stuff and everything in between. They can actually start out the season winning by a couple touchdowns.
I think the thing we have to remember too, it's a marathon, not a race.
Yeah.
In 2018, the Eagles team started 10-1.
Yeah.
Right. In their quest to
we were at the opening game.
In the quest to repeat. Yeah. Right. And I was
talking about last year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Obviously,
I was at the game. I was playing it.
Started out 10-1, and our expectations were sky high. Right. And then they fizzled out towards the end. So the thing to remember is, regardless of how it looks week one, even though we expect a lot, this team has obviously dealt with a lot, the preseason and Super Bowl and all this, and it's a process. I do think they win this game. I just don't know that it looks like everyone thinks it's going to look, where they just boat race them and the thing's over at the end of the first quarter. That would surprise me based on the way the NFL typically goes.
For sure.
Yeah.
It would be abnormal for that to happen, but you know what? Let's go with that in Philly. That'll be Big Pick Nick's pick of the week.
That's the pick of the week. Big Pick Nick pick of the week. Eagles minus 8.5.
And I promise it won't always be the Philadelphia Eagles, but I mean, opening game, got to go with them. I think everyone's ready to see some fireworks.
There you have it. Eagles minus 8.5. And just to recap, we both agreed Chiefs minus 3, Ravens plus 1.5, and you said Bears?
I said Bears.
And Bears plus 1.5 at home, Ravens plus 1.5 on the road. That's going to be an interesting thing to follow over the course of the weekend. Reminder, bonus episode with Brent Selleck. We had a tremendous interview with Brent Selleck. It's going to air tomorrow, which is the day before the first game. And we're excited to share that with you guys as well. And we will have more guests over the course of the season too. This has been episode 3 of the season. Our first one, week 1, our first regular cadence episode of the season in week 1. We will have one weekly moving forward throughout the NFL season. Thank you for joining us.